put the valves in and whatnot. Whoever did the bottles may have found this interesting. So any sort of non-flammable gas, the threads for the valve and the lines are right-hand threads. Any sort of compressed gas that is flammable, be it acetylene, propane, maybe hydrogen, I'm not sure on that one. They all have left-hand threads. So if you take a crescent wrench and go to loosen this, and you're cranking on it hard to the left, there's a good chance you'll strip the threads out in the valve, so don't do that. So anything that is red has left-hand threads, be it here, on the torches, and the bottle itself. Before you open the valves, a good thing to do is on your acetylene regulator, loosen it out to the left. That takes pressure out of this, because you don't know if someone walked by, it was just like their ADHD was playing. Like I find myself doing stupid stuff all the time that I shouldn't be. And like, say your like ADHD kicks in and you start cranking on this, and the next person that comes to use it doesn't know this, you can crank the pressure up on this too high, and acetylene, sorry, my brain is out there today, over 15 psi becomes very volatile and not the best things happen. So kind of have your regulator backed out, and then you can turn on the gas. So on your gauges here, this gauge, the one that goes significantly higher in values, is like what your bottle pressure is. And then this gauge is what your line pressure is. For general cutting and heating type applications with a cutting torch, a good baseline for your pressure is about 8 psi.
The bottle or line?
The line pressure. So your bottle, a brand new bottle should be about 300 pounds of pressure, and it'll slowly dwindle down. Anything below 50 pounds, the bottle's more or less empty. So we'll turn our regulator in until we get right there to about 8 psi, and that has your acetylene set. On your oxygen, it can vary a lot more depending on what you're trying to do. This one isn't as big of a deal, like if you don't have the valve set correctly. So on your oxygen bottle, the bottle itself is pressurized like exponentially greater than your acetylene bottle. Your oxygen bottle, a full bottle should be about 2,000 psi, where a full bottle of acetylene is only about 300 psi. So this right here is down to about 1,200 psi, so it still has about half a bottle left in it. Let's see, depending on whether you're cutting or heating or rosebud welding, depends on how much oxygen you need. You can look up online what you need really. For cutting, a good baseline is about, slack her off a bit. Really, for most things you'll do in the lab, 20 to 40 psi oxygen is plenty. You can crank it all the way up to like 150. I'd be pretty impressed to see. I mean, so with oxygen, the more oxygen you're putting into the flame, there's like a weird curve of like, it gets hotter, 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 then like it drops off and gets super cold in the flame. But whenever you're cutting, like I said, 20 to 40, you can dial it in to get a feel for how thick a metal you're cutting. You want to have a nice blue flame heating up, and then whenever you pull your oxygen valve, it bursts air through, and that's what like removes material. It's not getting it any hotter or anything. So whenever you light it, you always just light it by cracking open your acetylene valve until you hear just a whisper coming out of it. Like if you got it dumping like that, you'll light it and this big old fireball will come out. So just a nice little whisper. Do we have any decent strikers anywhere?
There's a starter in there. There's a starter in there that looks like a gun. Like a staple. It looks like a gun.
Don't do that. Ooh, scoopers and out of here.